So, why you start laughing right away?
You have an idea.
I have an idea. So, I always come in the office and I always say to you guys miss me? And you always go, yeah. You always get this, yeah, we miss you.
I think I know where this is going.
I need to make printed cutouts of me to put all around the office.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to say. Except I was expecting like big cutouts of your head, but
that's a better idea. Just
we don't
my
need
head.
full Skip. We just need his face.
Just my head. And we can make them into Post-it notes. Oh my gosh. We could cut on my whole head, make them Post-it notes. You guys can have me everywhere you go and write on them.
Have you ever seen like the pranks people pull where it's like a big office and they have like all these frames and they print like little heads of the boss or whatever and they just like stick it on the frames and then like slowly over months you just find more little printed pieces of the person's face? That's what we need to do. And
we should have like laptop stickers you guys can put on and stickers you can put on your cups. I'll be everywhere and you'll never miss me.
We can never get rid of you.
Vacation, no, I've got them on a cup.
We wouldn't miss you, that's for sure.
It's probably not a very good idea then, is it? Well,
we'll see.
All right. Well, so we're going to be talking about printing today. Not the printing of just my head and on Post-it notes, but we're going to be talking about printing today, and hopefully you'll get something from this episode that you can use for your business. Hey everybody, it's Skip Renke.
And Emma Offerman Vogt.
And welcome back to the Main Street Marketing Podcast.
A podcast where we discuss anything and everything marketing.
And today we have Matt Young from Accurate Graphics, and we're going to talk about the power of print still in a digital world and why it still matters to your marketing mix. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
All right, Matt. So give us a little quick overview. What is Accurate Graphics? What do you do? What kind of businesses you work with?
Well, we are basically a small commercial printer. We do work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of schools, churches, and then just general population. I mean, we do everything from your basic wedding invitation up to full color mailers to 50,000 pieces, or 60,000 pieces. So there's really not a limit to what we can do. We do a lot of large format, so signage, banners, yard signs, all that kind of stuff. And one of our bigger projects is we take on a lot of mailings. There's not a lot of print shops around of our size that'll take on mailings and do them. And we pulled a job last week from up by Dane and Lodi because the printer up there wouldn't take care of the mailing for the school, and we said, hey, no problem. So we drove all the way to Lodi and dropped it at the post office, took care of them in couple short days. They were amazed that we were able to turn it around that fast, and they're happy, and we've gotten 2 orders since. So
there you go.
You guys do a really good job with the mailings, though. I mean, we've done many of them with you, and it's once you have the process down, it's quite easy to do.
It is, and my wife Sharon, she knows the insides and outs probably better than most postal employees. So
that is
actually, I know she knows it better than most postal employees.
Accurate assessment. So people keep saying that print is dying in this digital world. What do you say to that?
I don't think print is dying, but I certainly think it's changing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more smaller jobs. People would do a lot less quantity than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
With the onset of a lot of the digital presses and stuff, it makes that ability easier to do 20 of something or 50 of something.
Right.
So we find ourselves doing a lot more smaller runs.
Mm-hmm.
And just the products we print are different than they used to be. I mean, we just don't print letterheads anymore. I mean, it just does not happen.
Oh, that's a good point.
I've even seen the digital business cards that people have where they just have the one and you scan it or whatever instead of actually printing business cards.
That's an interesting point. I mean, you still print a lot of business cards.
We do a lot of business cards.
So you see at networking events, these people that have the digital ones, and I'm like,
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I still like a good, firm business card that I can hang on to and keep. I mean, I'm old school.
Well, yeah. Well, most of the population is old school because they're old.
There's that.
But there definitely is something to having it. I'd prefer to have a business card, even if I'm just throwing it in my drawer, because I want to keep it for 6 months down the road when I need that service. I know where to look for
Yep.
it. If it's a digital thing that I snap somewhere, it's long gone.
Yep. No memory of it.
That's
doesn't
a
have
really good point.
chance.
And I keep all the cards. I put them in a rubber band, and when I need to find that one, you got to go through them all. Be a lot better if I just put them in order. But I mean, but I have them.
But it works, and
It
it
does
only
work.
takes you 2 seconds to find the one you need. And,
That's a very good point.
and I'm a firm believer that some of those things, some of the digital or some of the electronic media is definitely a good thing, but not everything.
No, good point.
So where do you see print shining? Are there certain campaigns or things that you print that you see do really well?
Well, we do a lot of mailings, like a lot of mailings, and so we utilize a lot of every door direct mails because it's easy to target a market. Roofers, for instance. I know you guys have a couple roofing customers that we do some work for with, and we have 3 or 4 of our own. And when the hail hits, so do we typically. I mean, as you know, a few weeks ago in that Edgerton one, I mean, it hailed, and the next day, I believe, the next day or the day after, the postcards were in the customers' mailboxes, not just at the post office. I mean, we dropped everything, printed, and drove to Edgerton to get those things in the mail. There's not a lot of places around that are going to.
There's no places around that will do that.
Well,
there's
one.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, but people try to, but then there's people try to leverage the online stuff to try to get that to work. They'll try to do it through somebody online. It's never
Right, but that
happen.
never
gonna
I
happen.
promise that won't work.
No, it won't.
Because I can't tell you how many times someone has ordered a mailing online and then we did it over, or we did it and still got it because they couldn't get it in time.
Right.
Do you have, not even just mailers, but like whether it's business cards or flyers, people that try to do those like quick, easy online sources end up coming to you because they weren't printed accurately?
Quite often.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, there's not a lot of consistency. So if you order, today and then you order next week, you don't even know it's going to be done at the same facility, let alone the same press or whatever. So your likelihood of getting consistency is slim. And then if something does go wrong, who do you call? I'm not exactly sure, because I'm pretty sure if you call the number, it'll be like calling,
Somebody else,
FedEx or UPS. You'll get some other country, and
1-800.
nobody cares. And this is how my family eats, so we care.
Yeah, and you can tell. I mean, now that we're on that topic, I was going to bring it up later, but it's a good segue. You can tell the difference in the quality between what you get from the online crap to what you guys print. I mean, it's night and day. Like a business card, you can see roller marks on a lot of those cards, and they look terrible.
Well, and the difference is that happens to us too, but we just don't let you know.
Yeah.
Good point. Those cards don't get there.
Well, isn't that my?
But there
that's
is
my job to make sure that you don't know.
That is the quality control. I mean, that's a really good point. So,
and it does not happen very often, but it wasn't too long ago Jake and I were hefting some pretty heavy buckets into the dumpster because things didn't go as they should have. And rather than let our customer know,
somebody online is going to put it in a box and ship it anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just dumpstered it and ordered more paper. It was a great day.
So when we talk about things being printed, what makes a piece stand out? Is it the texture? Is it the what makes something stand out?
Excuse me. I think a lot of times it's pictures, and people take they take a bad picture, or they want to use a low quality picture, and that is representing your business or your project or your whatever organization, whatever.
Right.
In today's world, there's no reason to not have a good picture. I mean, your iPhone or whatever will take a better picture than I could ever possibly need. Just hold still and it'll cut the head off.
Nice.
And it's important that when they send us the pictures, that like on my iPhone, it gives me a range. Do you want a high quality, low quality, what setting? Just send me the high quality one, and it'll just be better. I can make it any size we need to then, and everything will just flow and be easy. And just make sure your photos are good. And then the other thing is, I think that nowadays with a lot of the digitals presses, it allows us to implement color a lot more reasonably. And still not necessarily always reasonable, but it's possible now. Whereas if you look at 10, 15 years ago, in order to print a full color brochure, well, you're making 4 plates and, negatives and plates and setting it all up to run 100. It takes 1,000 sheets to get the color where it needs to be to do a 100-sheet job. Where now you can, I can pretty much do it with 1 sheet to set up.
Yeah. I mean, that's how fast did that technology evolve? Was that, just out of curiosity?
I think it went pretty fast. Back in 2007, I bought a 4-color printing press. And that may not have been my best purchase ever. It did a fine job, but it was the digital press. This was a digital, but it had plates, and they would burn the plates right on the press. So it was relatively fast, but compared to the digital presses of today, had I bought, or if it was available, if I had bought what I have now, we'd be light years ahead, but it just was it was a very expensive piece of equipment that wasn't as user friendly as it could have been, and in hindsight, maybe a different purchase would have.
Yeah. But it's continually evolving all the time, right? It's not.
It is, and the technology is so good these days. Like our particular digital press, we have what they call an IQ unit on there, and when you start the machine up and you run it the IQ mode, it automatically squares and centers everything front to back. Without before it even prints a sheet. It prints a square box basically on the sheet, and then it scans that and straightens and squares everything to itself and to the back side without ever having to make an adjustment. And so, like, if you're doing a trifold brochure and the panels are all bleed and it's always been a nightmare. Well, now it's kind of like push the green button.
Nice.
That's nice.
That's awesome.
And the technology, like for instance, when I left, they were running some raffle tickets. And so the new technology on the press is now, that job starts printing. It prints all of the raffle tickets, numbers them all in sequential order. Just while running them, 20 to a sheet, it numbers them all in sequential order, perfs them and cuts them into individual tickets and stacks them as it comes out of the press. So, a lot of times people will say, well, you got it done so fast. I'm like, well, we were set up. Just keep it running.
Hit the green button.
Well, it's a little more. It's a little more than that, but there is a little bit of the green button involved.
All right, okay.
I'm not going to lie. But the ability to have the equipment do so much has really kind of eliminated a need for as many people.
Okay.
And it does sound a little bad, but the machines are always there every morning when I get there, ready to work.
That's a good point.
And between Jake and I, we can keep 4 or 5 machines running most. Between the two of us, keep 4 or 5 machines running most of the day.
That's awesome.
And just as long as you kind of watch what you're doing, we can get one up to do a long run and another one up to do shorter run stuff and envelope presses. And
you're a well-oiled machine over there.
We have a system, but after 38 years, you kind of figure it out.
So over those 38 years, do you have any success stories that you can share where a print material helped change or make a significant impact in a business?
We do a lot of like referendums and stuff for school districts and that. So So those definitely make a difference, good or bad. I don't know. It's not my job to decide
No,
that.
it's
It's
true.
just my job to perform and deliver the referendums when they need to be done. And I'm not going to lie. I like it when I have the referendum, the for side, and the against side. That's a great day. But but no, those make a pretty significant difference in the world and to everyone's life. We've also done other projects like the big 3 Pillars project that's going on over near Dousman.
Oh, sure.
We've done a number of. They do a lot of their own design work there, but we do a lot of their mail campaigns and stuff for the new facility opening here in the next week or two. So those are the kind of things we like to get into. It's hard to remember what kind of an impact a print job I did.
Well, people keep coming back to reprint things. Obviously, there was some sort of impact if they're going to keep reinvesting.
But I can probably point to one personally. Is you do the SCI banquet book every single year.
We do.
And everybody at that banquet, which people don't know about SCI, it's Safari Club International, and there's a big hunters banquet every single year, and there's hunts and items that are auctioned off, and it's a big event.
It's pretty good size.
It's a pretty good size, but it's raised money for animal conservation and animal and education and all kinds of things. But there's auctions that go on there, and without that book and what you guys do for that book, you wouldn't have the results that they get on that weekend.
I would think you're right, and that's a pretty good example of things that are kind of a problem job. Well, that's not the right way of saying it, but everything comes in so last minute on a job like that because donators are they wait to the last minute and all of a sudden we've got another XYZ we need to add to the book at number 13. I'm like, what?
Now you got to reformat all the pages.
Can we make it 36 instead? Does it really matter? Because now we got to reflow the whole book.
Yeah.
And then we try to tell people things like that. It's much easier on us if you can give us everything at once and let us put the thing together and then make some changes rather than piecemealing it. And then we have page 2 done and you decide you want a full page of pictures on page 2.
Yep.
I totally get
that. I bet you do.
We get that a lot. But but the impact that it does though, it's a pain. It's kind of a hard job with that. But once it's done and they have it, it makes a huge impact.
It does. And there's a lot, like I say, there's a lot of those kind of projects. It sounds bad, but it's kind of work, and you kind of just did what you did last week, and then you don't really think about it again until. So it's hard to come up with a good idea on something like that.
So but when we talk about printing, there's things, and we talk about technologies and things changing. The digital world and the print world, they cross at some point in time. But are you seeing a lot of QR codes on things being printed now that you?
In fact, on the way over here today, I just delivered 7,000 business cards that just have company name and a QR code that they're just handing out. So when they're at shows or whatever, they just hand out their QR code on business cards. That's like 7,500 of those I did today. We see that more and more. We have other organizations that'll do, like we do a lot of signage type stuff. Sure. So we'll put the QR codes in that on easel signs if they're at the baseball card show comes to mind, but and so you can click on the QR code and when you're at the show and it tells you whatever it is you need to know at that show or whatever. So we do utilize that, not as much as I thought we would. It seemed to be a lot hotter topic maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and now it seems like people just kind of like, yeah, whatever, and it's not as big a deal.
Yeah.
But now here in the last 3 or 4 months, I've seen just a lot more of it. So I don't know.
Kind of ebbs and flows.
It seems to.
So what's a common mistake that you see businesses make when they try to DIY and design their own materials and make
you did this
it?
on purpose.
I really want to know.
That's awesome.
Well, I always say if your house is burning down, you don't call a plumber.
That's a good way to do it.
And it's kind of, not saying that people can't design their own stuff, and it really depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing a baby shower or, even a bridal, perhaps something, put it together and have a good time and find a little dinosaur and make it just your own. It's all great, and we're happy to work with that. But when you start getting into like bigger projects, trifolds, multiple page things, sometimes it's just easier to let us just do it. I tell people all the time, it doesn't really cost any more to have us do it than it does to have us fix it.
Right.
Because fixing usually takes longer than doing, because now I have to figure out what you did, undo it, do it correctly, and then, could you send me something that's, higher resolution that people tend to, I don't know, maybe steal stuff off the internet when they're doing this.
That never happens.
And so now that little logo or whatever it is that they borrowed is now an RGB. So now printing is done CMYK. So now your colors aren't going to match, and it's just the whole thing. And it's kind of, when you don't put the package together right, it just makes things difficult. And then typically what happens is they come back in 2 weeks and, hey, I want to get some business cards, or we're going to do a trade show and, I need a banner. Well, yeah, but your logo is 1 inch by 1 inch at 72 DPI on your project now. If I try to blow that up to 2 foot by 2 foot.
It's like a blurred image.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
It's terrible.
Right.
And then I sometimes feel that our customers think we're just saying this. But we're just not. I mean, there's just two different things. Print and digital is, if you're putting stuff on the web, it's just different. It's
right.
not.
I imagine Canva templates don't help with that. When they select a template that's for a digital, and then they're making that, and then they want that printed, and
right. And now now the blue doesn't match my blue, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Your $1.98 Home Depot printer doesn't print accurate color.
Yeah, this is what it should always look like.
Right.
And that happens. And see, that's kind of one of the other things that's very difficult when people design their own stuff, but don't have the technology or the equipment to do it properly. And then we get the file, and then it doesn't work. And so now we have to go in and try and fix it. And then we have to try and find a new whatever picture of a house or whatever it is. And now it's not the same one. But they have this preconceived notion of what it should look like because they designed it. And now we have to try and modify it and find stuff that'll work. And then it's just sometimes I think easier if you take a piece of scratch paper, write down, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I want this on an old napkin.
On a
as
napkin.
far as I'm concerned.
How many things have been brought to you on a napkin? I bet it's got to be.
I wish more would be because it's easier.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'll
never forget the business card that we had designed. I don't remember if it was PowerPoint or in Excel.
People design stuff in Excel all the time.
And I've had one person do it that I'm like, do you want a job? Because if you can do this in Excel, we could really.
Oh, the file worked?
It was one of the better
really
design job, or not maybe design, but everything just fit. The measurements, the proportions, everything. And I'm like, man, if you had some tools, we could make something,
I'm shocked by that.
I totally. And we were too, and this was 10 years ago, and we still talk about it because that was probably one of the better customer supplied art jobs we've ever had. And it was an Excel. I'm like, I don't even know how to work with this.
I don't even know where to go with that.
That's amazing.
I mean, I don't even.
It was very good. But, we've done a number. PowerPoint is another big one we get. And a PowerPoint presentation slide is not the right size.
No.
And
then you go, oh no, there's bleeds and you can't stretch it, and it's just a nightmare.
Well, sorry to get you going on that.
No,
but I mean,
it's a hill I'm willing to. No.
It's a hill I'm willing to die on. Yeah. So, are there any trends that are going on in printing that businesses should be paying attention to?
I know there's a lot of things that my salesmen try to sell me. foil stampers or UV coaters, and yes, they do some really kind of neat things, or they can. But I'm not sure things like that are the difference between selling your product and not selling your product. That comes down more to a, boy, I'd really like to have that on my project, in my opinion.
That makes sense.
It's harder and harder. It used to be easier to do like a foil stamp job because there was a lot more pieces of equipment out there that could do that kind of thing. Well, those pieces, most of them are in a scrapyard.
No.
They're just old. They use a lot of letterpress for that kind of process. Heat set, you use heat to press the foil and such. And there just isn't a lot of that equipment around. And worse than that, there's a lot less people who know how to run that equipment than there was 20 years ago.
Yeah, good point.
Are there any cool or unexpected projects you've done recently?
We did a couple kind of cool ones for the NFL draft. So one of our customers does a lot of work with liquor distributors and such. And so they had a big Captain Morgan wall we had printed for them. It was, what was it? I think it was 8 foot high and 16 feet long. And it was, the Captain Morgan, and then they had holes all cut in it for throwing footballs through. It was like a football throwing competition for Captain Morgan.
Wow.
So that was kind of a fun project. And we've done some cornhole games and stuff for weddings, and customized them for, weddings and different events. And those are just kind of fun things that we do. And you don't get a lot of that, but
change from the everyday.
Yeah, and we do, like the same company that does the liquor type stuff. They do a lot of weddings. It's kind of a promotions company, so they do a lot of weddings and stuff. So we'll do a lot of like monogram graphics for floors for the dance floor and stuff. So have their initials in the middle of the dance floor or whatever, and a lot of that kind of stuff. And then we do actually a lot of window perf graphics also for a tequila company. So we travel. We were just down in Racine last week installing windows, and Okachi, and then we've done like Woodman's in Waukesha, and the Pig out here in Oconomowoc, and
It was like the not clings. But
it's we call it window perf. So you can see out from the inside, but you can't see in from the outside.
Oh.
So we do like cooler doors. Like we just did
Okay.
a cooler door over in Okachi at a Mexican restaurant over there. And let's see here. We did a grocery store down in Racine, and
That's pretty cool.
3 or 4 liquor stores around. And anywhere you see tequila signs in the window, that's probably us.
All right. That's well. Okay.
Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
I like tequila. So with the advances in printing technology, though, I mean, small businesses can dream a little bit on what they want to print. It's kind of what I'm understanding with this.
Yeah,
Within reason.
No, I really think there's a lot less limitations now. The small guy can look really big for not a lot of effort. We installed a digital die cutter a couple years ago, so we can cut labels, door hangers. We can cut any shape, cut a label. So we can cut out like Sweet Pea's candy store here in Oconomowoc. We do their labels for all of their candies, and then we can cut any shape and any size that they need. And we do quite a few of those kind of things. And so just having that simple little, well, I guess it wasn't that simple or little, but regardless, that die cutter allows us to do a lot of projects that are going to make the small guy, look big. We do door hangers for lawn and lawn care companies or whatever, and do a special shape cut. Or
that's cool.
So when they hang them and they're in their neighborhood, or we've done roofing companies the same way with the door hangers. They just knock and leave the
Sure.
or put it on your mailbox or whatever.
Kind of gives me an idea for. Never mind. You'll shoot me down on that one anyway. That's all right.
So we talked about how the industry has changed up to this point. Where do you see it in the next 5-10 years?
Hopefully in my rearview mirror.
I'm out.
I'm out. No, actually, I really don't. I don't have any concerns. The thought is for my son to take the business and keep it going, and I don't have any concern for his future. I think if you look back 25 years or so, there was a lot more print shops around. You know, when I opened my company in '88, there was print shop on every other corner.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a Walgreens. I mean, they were everywhere.
It's a good point.
And that has really dwindled down. You know, I mean, I've bought three other print shops out over the last 30 years just because they were going out, and you know, I basically bought their file cabinets and took over their work. But it's kind of my opinion that if you don't keep up with the times, you can't catch up to the times. And so many print shops, or at least what I've experienced, is the owners, you know, they've owned it forever. They're getting into their late 50s, early 60s, and they're like, I'm just going to ride this out. This equipment will be just fine. And we have not done that. We are pretty progressive, and we keep our equipment new and able to service the customer, consequently making our business probably worth a little more money because it actually has equipment that somebody could take over and keep running with.
Right.
Whereas most of the shops that I'd bought over the years, I simply just bought their client list because their equipment was so antiquated that why would I want this?
Yeah.
I just got to go to the scrapyard with it. You know, there
Right.
just isn't anything. And so that's what we try to do. And we try not to let any of our equipment get, you know, much over 5-6 years old, because by that point it's obsolete in today's world. You know, some things like your cutter, I mean, my cutter's 30 years old, but it doesn't, maybe not quite that old, but it's not going to get any better if I buy a new one.
Right.
So it's one of those things they say, you know, you buy one cutter in your lifetime and it's all programmable and everything, but we just don't need to replace that. And I will say, though, that I have a corner where the cutter is, and we have an old drill back there and a couple of folders and stuff that are, let's just say, vintage. But antique corner always works.
There you go.
I can go there and I can turn any of that on. And it'll work every day of the week. I'm not always so confident on the new equipment. Without service contracts and service techs, there's nothing you can really fix on them yourself anymore. Too much.
Right. Well, that's cool. Yeah, but you keep the old equipment around. You never throw it out.
Don't throw it away.
I got you. Are there things that clients often underestimate when it comes to like designing for print? Is it they don't design it the proper way? But what do you see most?
I mean, we kind of covered it a little bit earlier when we talked about you know, the CMYK and the RGB and the spot colors. They're picking different things, and that's very difficult on our end, because we get it and now we have to go through and click on everything and find out what's you know, what's wrong. And that's where all the time comes in when we have to fix stuff. Is we don't know what you did, so now we have to tippy-toe through it and find out all of the bad stuff and fix it.
I know personally when I was designing things, which was wrong all the time anyways, but you always used to send it back, there's no bleed on this.
There's no bleed.
You don't have any bleed.
Right.
Like,
Didn't we tell him that last time?
And that's why Skip is not allowed to download
that's
software on his computer anymore.
I was going to say, that's why I'm not supposed to talk those comments about after the phone hangs up comments. Didn't we tell him that last time?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if that came out of your mouth, because that is probably something that I would,
I think it was my lovely wife that actually said it. No.
Probably. If she did, that's fine. I totally deserve it.
No, but those are some of the things, like say the color picking, not picking the right things, or you know, not understanding how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to wrap up this part of the interview, if a business hasn't printed anything in a while, what is a good way to get back into it, low risk? Where should they get started?
Well, I'll tell you, those EDDM, every door direct mail, mailings are a pretty good place to start. The nice part about them is you have to do a complete route in order to get the discounts on the postage. But you can pick which routes you want to do. So we have a couple of restaurants that are smaller, mom and pop type restaurants, and what they've done is they've picked like an EDDM route, and they send it just to that one route. They'll send out a menu, and then they'll notice an increase because now everybody who lives in that route just has your menu to order pizza or whatever it is. And so they'll let that work for a week or two or three or a month until they build up some funds again from the increased sales, and then they pick the next route over and they send it just to that route. So it really makes it economical that they can get it out, and now you always have new people getting your menu, and you just keep cycling it through. Keeps it inexpensive and increases their sales. It clearly must work well for them. I have 2 or 3 restaurants that do that because they just never stop doing them. They just keep picking another route a little, in a circle around their business. And, some businesses work, that kind of project works really well for, and, other businesses like mine, for instance, doing an every door direct mail would simply be a waste of money because the general population doesn't utilize my services. But if I was selling pizza and ice cream, I'd be doing one every other week just to remind you I'm here type of thing.
Right.
And
it makes it manageable, control their costs, and it's pinpoint and it's targeted. Makes sense.
And everyone living in that zip code or that route of your zip code is in your target market. I mean, they live within 5 miles of your pizza store or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And who doesn't at some point need a pizza? They can throw that menu in the drawer, and it may be obsolete, but it still has your phone number on it.
Kind of making me hungry for pizza.
I'm thinking that too.
Go ahead.
Now, just to end this, just some rapid questions for you.
Yeah.
So the first thing that comes to your mind, what is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Actually, I think to make sure I take care of my customers, if I take care of my customers, they take care of me. And that's kind of what I've kind of always lived by, and it's worked out well for us, I guess. Just so taking care of my customers, I guess the best would be just take care of your customers and they'll take care of you.
That's right.
What's a common myth about the printing industry?
Everyone seems to think that print is dying or whatever, and I just don't think that's the case. Again, like I said earlier, it's definitely changing, but it's still very relevant. People like to have that brochure or that catalog or that whatever in their hand. You think about it, you go buy something, you go buy looking at a new toy or whatever, and you go to the dealership or the store and you're looking at it. You want them to hand you a brochure that's got pictures of it in it and what are the options you can get on it, and you want to take that home and you want to look through it. At least I do. I don't want to be flipping every time I go to scroll through it. It throws up another ad, and I don't care about whatever they're advertising.
No, that's a good point. I mean, and I know when I bought like my tractor, we've talked tractors and stuff. I bought my new tractor. I got a brochure. I took it home. I looked at it, went through the whole thing. I didn't want to flip through it online.
No, and then you can go to YouTube or you can go wherever and you can say, okay, tell me more about this now that I have a question. Because you don't know what you don't know until you start putting this project together. So I think
that makes sense to me.
I think that's is important. It's not dying. It's just different.
Can you imagine a trade show if it was all digital? If they weren't handing out anything? I think it would be a failure.
I think so.
Now, I know you're not a trend guy, so it's okay if you don't have an answer, but is there a trend you think that in printing that is overrated?
probably go back to that spot varnish and foil stamping and things. That's just kind of a dying thing that was more trendy, but I don't think you get enough bang for your buck. It's exceedingly expensive and, in my opinion, doesn't make or break the project.
I know you talked me out of it.
Now, I don't know if you can top what you already shared about some of the stuff for the draft, but what's the most creative piece you've ever worked on?
Actually, we've done some pretty cool things for Country Christmas at the Angleside Hotel. A lot of their displays, and they had like this North Pole post office. We did full wall displays and do a fair amount of stuff for them. So that's kind of fun because it's Christmassy and whatever.
Everybody likes Christmas.
It's fun to take the grandkids there and point to it. Yeah, Dad did that.
There it
Grandpa
is.
did that.
Grandpa did that.
If listeners took only one thing away from this interview, what would you want them to remember?
To just ask for help. We really do, and we really do like to help. And it's far easier if the customer, even if they want to do it themselves, I'm totally fine with that. But just kind of know what you don't know and call and ask. We're happy to help because it's far easier for us to tell you how to do it than to have to call you after you send us the artwork and then you get upset because that's just what people do. They get upset when you tell them the stuff isn't working the way it's supposed to. So if we talk about it and we can send you a little sheets we have made up that explain bleeds, Jim, and how
Here it is.
and how much we should have and what we should do to what you should be required to do.
Right.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. It's
Makes
actually
everybody's life easier.
Well, it actually is fun for us because then we get involved with the project a little bit more. And when you bring it in, we already kind of have a little thing going, and that's just I think that would be a good thing. Just don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a disgrace. I don't know anything about heart surgery, and I'm not willing to give it a shot, without a little guidance at least.
Where do I start cutting?
Right.
That's my foot, Doc.
Right. Well, that's what I signed. You signed your foot before the surgery.
On that note, we'll wrap up this interview. Thank you so much for the insight.
Thanks for
man.
having me.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it too. Thank you.
That was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What'd you take away from that?
Two things. I thought it super interesting how often they get new equipment.
Yeah, right.
Didn't expect that. And just the quality control that they have.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, the one thing I took away is I didn't know about they have the die cutter that you can cut. I mean, you think back like 8 years ago when you first, or 9 years ago, 9 years, however long. I think we had to always send stuff out in die cutting, and they only had. They had to send it out.
I remember that transition when they got that piece of equipment.
Yeah.
There was coffee labels we were making,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they were so much more affordable after they got that piece of equipment.
Because the first run we did, they didn't think they could do them, or we had to send it someplace else, but then they had that and made it completely different. But you're right about the equipment. I mean, they've really stayed up to speed and ahead of so many, and I do appreciate the quality control because I've seen some people. Well, we've seen it where people have brought in the business cards from online and they look absolutely
from one card to the next, the color might not even be the same.
Yeah, or it doesn't, and then that messes up the branding guidelines, so it doesn't even match their colors. But he says they won't even let that stuff out the door; they just carry it out to the dumpster. And I think that's the real difference between working with somebody local that understands, like he says, I take care of my customers, they're going to take care of me.
Small town.
And there's a lot of value in working with somebody local because, like he says, call them first before you even design it to make sure, hey, what do we need? What's the size? There's bleed involved. I always screw that up, but that's why I don't design anymore.
That's why you have us.
That's right. But it's true though. If you call them, you get all the information you need. It really makes the project go a lot smoother. And like they say, they have fun with it. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. All right. Well, this has been the Main Street Marketing Podcast. I'm Skip Ranke.
And I'm Emma Opperman Vogt.
And you can find the Main Street Marketing Podcast on all of the services you watch your podcast on.
Or you can watch our full episodes on YouTube.
Thanks for joining us today.